And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glasser coming right back at you here from Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcast. Plus, also as well, Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Joe Soro and Magic Man Sean Grice stop by Inside Sports Fantasy Football to talk about the NFL season starting this week, and actually already started with the Detroit Lions upset of the Kansas City Chiefs. Go ahead and hear what they have to say about the upcoming season right here in Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover, again, the latest news and trends in pop culture. We just dropped an episode there as well covering Star Trek. And happy Star Trek Day to everyone out there. Live long and prosper. Go ahead and check out what we talked about, plus also as well Starfield, Baldur's Gate 3, and so much more. Go ahead and check it out today wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, I am geeking out, so sue me. Also as well, Lakerholics.com. Laker Tom, who's finished or will be finished doing the backflips after the Christian Wood signing. Go ahead and check him out tomorrow afternoon with me. Hopefully Sean, maybe Joe will join us as well. Go ahead and maybe I might even get L-Rob to join us talking about Christian Wood, because you know he'll want to talk nothing Christian Wood about anything but Christian Wood. That's coming up here on the weekend, plus also what he does with Jamie Sweet each and every day at Lakerholics.com. Empire Jeff TV and John McCallion and us. Please subscribe today to get all three of our great channels on YouTube. Go ahead and click on the little Joe on the right-hand corner right below Sean to get the latest notifications on when we go live on the air. We also are striving to get to 1,000 subscribers, striving to get Empire Jeff TV and also as well John McCallion to 1,000 subscribers as well. And if you can support us on our social media, it is sincerely appreciated. Well, we're going to be talking the Miami Heat, who are they in a waiting pattern for a certain individual in Portland? We're going to talk about that, talk about the roster, talk about their chances so far this season, coming off the finals run, coming up here in a bit with John Jablonka from the Miami Heat. But first, Magic Man. Not a good day for the US of A and the Canada, the world of Canada, the country of Canada in the World Cup today.
No, Gerald, it's rainy, cold, and windy here in Mudville.
That's for sure.
Yeah. We talked about it, Gerald. There were kind of two dark horses coming into the tournament, the Germans and the Serbs, and now they're playing for the gold. They both took advantage of the same issue. Neither Canada nor US have a traditional big. So they play more of a hybrid style internationally, and Serbia just cut Canada up today, Gerald. The score indicates that the game was closer than it appeared. Serbia was up by 15 at half. Seemed like they couldn't miss. Shot over 60% from the field, got all 5 Canadian starters in foul trouble within about 5 minutes of the first quarter, Gerald. And it was a fact that Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks just really couldn't get on the court in the second half. And Serbia took advantage of it, Gerald. Bogdan Bogdanovic is a monster internationally, and he just ate Canada alive today. The second half of the semifinals, Gerald, was Germany just Daniel Theis ate the Americans inside, Gerald. Daniel Theis. I want to repeat that. Daniel Theis, who's had a really great tournament. So Daniel's a very good NBA player, but he's not what you would call a scorer. But Gerald, for some reason, I don't know what it was, but Cam Johnson really didn't have an effect at all in this tournament. And Triple J's effectiveness just went down increasingly. It seemed game by game. His John actually had a great tweet earlier today where he talked about how R.J. Barrett, Jalen Brunson, and a number of other guards had more rebounds per game than Triple J. So it was just a case of Germany taking advantage of a flaw and a big one. I'm not sure if John would agree or not, but that's what I saw.
I will say this though, first, if I may intercede, Team USA came out very flat and in the third quarter, and I think that's where they lost the game. Germany built up a nice, sizable double-digit lead in the third quarter, and even a mad comeback by Austin Reeves, who got 21 points. Also, Anthony Edwards, 23, and Jalen Brunson, 15. Mikal Bridges, 17. Those were the guys that were in the clutch, were trying to do it. But something for the Lakers fans to be concerned about: Austin Reeves, for the second loss in a row, either against Lithuania and against against the Germans, he was a target. They targeted him on every possession, and they got a lot off him on defense. So I think that's something that in a future episode we do need to discuss as far as some defensive concerns we have for Austin Reeves. But that being said, they will play in the bronze medal game, USA and Canada, after a tough loss today for the US, 113 to 111. The comeback fell just short. And we'll see what happens there. If they can at least hold out with a win against Canada to finish out the World Cup. But today we're talking the Miami Heat, and here today to go ahead and discuss that with us, good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at the Miami Heat Beat at miamiheatbeat.com. It is John Jablonka, and John, great to have you here over in the UK. So we truly appreciate you coming up on this evening for you and morning for us. But great to have you here talking Miami Heat basketball today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on. Thank you for the invite. Always happy to talk some Heat ball.
There you go. Absolutely. And after a finals run, unfortunately, like us here in LA with the Lakers and all that, they both fell short against the Denver Nuggets, looking to rebound and obviously go strong this season. I think before I turn it over to Joe and Sean, the first question I have is, I know the obvious thing right out there is Damian Lillard, but I'm going to let the guys discuss in more detail on Damian Lillard. What I want to discuss is, let's say Damian Lillard does not come to the Miami Heat as many expect. What happens then? Can you still field a team that can go a long way in the playoffs?
That's a quick. Depends if they make any other moves. If it's just Dame or the team as it is without any other moves, I'm not happy with it. I'm not confident with their ceiling in the playoffs. I think they will be better in a regular season because I don't think they will be like bottom 5 in free throw percentage. They also had a lot of health issues, so I don't think that will be as bad. So they might be better in regular season without any moves. But when it comes to the playoff seeding, I don't think it will be as good as this year. But it all just depends on, because they could pivot from Dame. I don't think they need a player of that caliber to be better, but they need some moves to address the point guard position or the front court. If that's not addressed in any other ways, then I'm not really optimistic about the season.
All right, but here today as well to join us, good man indeed. He is the man behind simblades.com, and also as well, got to go ahead and check out what he does. It's Ox1947 at LakersBall.com. It is Joe Soro. Joe, great to have you here, my friend, talking Heat basketball. First up, I think you want to go ahead. Any questions that you might have, my friend, for John Jablonka?
We've been discussing this trade as well as the James Harden trade here the last month or so. The reality of a fair trade for both Portland and Miami is difficult because Miami doesn't have a lot of assets in terms of draft capital. Am I correct on that?
I think they have 2 right now. Could get 3 or 4 depending on their OKC production.
So it's very likely that if this trade is to go through, the Heat and Portland are going to need a third team. Is that correct?
Yeah, the whole point is about, I think, using Tyler Hero to get that additional first round pick.
Okay. So now looking at the talent besides the draft capital, you're looking at Tyler Hero. I'm assuming Duncan Robinson's going to be in that pile. Miami's not going to attach Bam Adebayo there, otherwise it's kind of counterproductive. And then I'm assuming Kyle Lowry. So Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and let's say 4 first-round picks. Now, what does Oklahoma City get in this deal if they're the third team?
I know OKC wouldn't be the third team. What I've heard from other reports is mainly Brooklyn, that they would get Tyler. I think that Toronto Raptors were also involved. OKC would be involved in just negotiating with the picks, because the Heat owe them a protected pick in that 2016. So it would be just amending that kind of thing to open up more trades. Like last year, 2 years ago, last year, they sent KZ, Capella, and another second to open up a different kind of pick. So I think that's what they would need to do with OKC, and then send Hero to Brooklyn for a first pick.
So a fourth team is likely as well?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. This trade is going to be very, very difficult, but Portland's going to have to accept the fact that they're not going to get much value. I've always thought draft capital in the NBA is a little overrated. I know in the way the NBA trades nowadays, it's become more valuable because of trades. But I just don't see how a team that plays well, that has late teen, early 20 first round picks that they eventually give away, because they're title contenders typically. I don't see how I haven't really seen too many times where those picks change the team that traded for them. I might have missed a couple here and there, but I don't see any earth-shattering, like, man, let's say, let's use New Orleans and the Lakers as an example. New Orleans got every piece of kind of first-round pick that worked their advantage, and they still couldn't get anything out of it, really. As a matter of fact, one of their picks ended up coming back indirectly back to the Lakers, which is Jackson Hayes. So with the salaries going up, I think it's going to be even less value. And I believe we're going to get to a point where I think that the league is trying to force players to stay home, this time by force. The only reason why there's a chance this happens is I think Portland, because of Lillard's loyalty, may do him a solid, that and the fact that they have arguably the second best player in the draft this year and could end up being a Ja Morant, talent-wise, of course, maybe even better type player. So they're not going to be hurting as much getting that kind of out of their hair and just focusing on the next Portland era, right? And then, of course, for Miami, why it makes sense for Miami for Lillard to want to go there is if you're able to trade Hero, Duncan, and Lowry, and that's the only player talent you let go, for Dame Lillard, and the ability of Miami to grab any non-drafted player out of the scrap heap and make them into extremely effective players. And in the East, I'd say if there aren't any injury issues, it's very likely Miami's going to the finals again next year. At least, and then at least next year, if Dame Lillard's there, you're looking at something where they might be able to compete a little bit more as well.
Yeah, I agree. Couple on the points you mentioned, like the picks being overrated. There's a piece I'm still like in the middle of, but I actually went through all the picks that got traded since like 1995, since when Pat Riley came. You're right, like a lot of picks don't end up great, because teams that trade for superstars will be contenders, and like they're mostly in the 20th, 20s like range. The only instance I found that did pay off for the team that traded it was the Brooklyn trade and any trades involved with the Knicks. Those picks always end up good. So I don't think like Portland are able to get a better offer for better picks elsewhere, because no tanking team or no bad team is going to trade for Lillard right now, and every other contender will have the same issue with the Heat, that their picks won't be as valuable. Also on a trade package, I don't think it will be Duncan and Lowry. I don't think Manny will match, so it will be just Kyle. But it will include the two young players, Jovic and Jaime Atkins. And there are some Heat fans that are reluctant to trade older young players and older picks, which I don't see reason why the Heat wouldn't want to do that, because they went to the finals without them. Like, Jovic didn't impact the game at all because he wasn't on the floor. Hero was injured, so you're losing not many players that had impactful minutes over the playoff run, and you're adding a top 75 player of all time. And if that does happen, a big three of Dame, Butler, and Bam, I think that's a top. That's the best trio I think in the NBA. Two defensive guys to cover up for Dame. They fit on perfectly on offense. Dame never had a big like Bam that could roll to the basket. The best big he had was like Nurkic, and that's not a athletic big. But as well, he just had his most efficient season in his career, and that will obviously help with an offensive talent like Dame. So I think that's just a match made in heaven, and I can also see them easily going to the finals.
Once again, it is John Jablonka. Please go ahead and check his work out today at MiamiHeatBeat.com. He's got an amazing array of articles detailing and outlining not only what the Miami Heat are like now, but previewing their season up ahead. So go ahead and check out also the questions that are abound in regards to the Damian Lillard trade. Check out the great articles that he has on that at MiamiHeatBeat.com. But also here today, good man indeed. He's the madman from Toronto. Got to go ahead and make sure he gets out of Toronto traffic to talk to John Jablonka today, and also tell us the bad news on the World Cup as well. So good news and bad news. Good man indeed, though. It is the Magic Man, Sean Grice. And Magic Man, I know you've been waiting to talk to John for quite some time in regards to the Miami Heat. You have some interesting things you want to go ahead and run by him, don't you?
Absolutely. John, one characteristic we know about Pat Riley is that he's willing to be more patient than the next executive. He's willing to wait you out. I think it behooves the Trailblazers to move Dame before the season starts. But Pat Riley has been quintessentially kind of silent throughout all this, which is usually his forte. So you mentioned that, obviously if they bring Dame in, they're going to retain Bam, they're going to retain Jimmy. They also have Caleb Martin as well. So that's three really good defenders you have on the floor with them at the same time. They're going to have to make some marginal moves though. So what do you see the Heat needing even after all this gets cleared away and they acquire Damian Lillard? What else do they need, John?
I think the main position will be the backup point guard, because I don't know who even play backup point guard. Because right now, there will be those three: Caleb, Josh Richardson, and then it's a bunch of Haywood Highsmith, Kevin Love. So I think the main issue will be the backup point guard position. Not sure who'd be available on the market. My ideal dream would be to have Heroes sent to Brooklyn and have like Spencer Dinwiddie plus Royce O'Neal. If they could wind up with like one or two of those players from Brooklyn, that would be much better. And the second position would be the forward position. I don't feel like they survive the Caleb minutes. They can't have just Caleb minutes. They need a actual big. That's not Kevin Love. That's 36. So I think if they could get like two of Spencer Dinwiddie, Royce O'Neal, or Dorian Finney-Smith, that will easily improve around the margins and around that team.
Joe, I know that you wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit more about Miami. I know Bam Adebayo is always a great question as far as how much of the load and the work is on him and how much he can still do. He's actually a very good player already. But Joe, your thoughts on Bam? You wanted to go ahead and maybe share with John?
Yeah, Bam is a somewhat of an enigma. I think he's a hustle player. He's a Miami Heat type player that might have a little bit more of a pump up than he really is. I don't know what other way to say it. He's not a star. He is, in a way, kind of like a Haslam, but probably a little bit more talented. And there are times where he can get neutralized. And I know the NBA is a perimeter type league now where shooting is at an all-time necessity and possessions are an all-time necessity and things like that. Basically how it is in the NFL, where passing has kind of rendered running backs obsolete to some extent. They're just there as a luxury. However, there is this chemistry that's there, and it's not a surprise with Pat Riley at the helm. If anyone saw the last episode of Winning Time, they finally unleashed Adrian Brody, a.k.a. Pat Riley, on that show towards the end of episode 5. And I everything I read in terms of reviews after that were like, God, that was the baddest. I think the word he used was fried turd. Man, even my wife started laughing at that line, the way he delivered it. So now every time I see somebody play bad like some of the United States players today, I now think of fried turds. Miami, I've made some jokes about Miami just because I have friends who are Miami Heat fans, and that's, how that goes. But the reality is Miami is one player away from truly having a shot at winning the title. I believe both times that they've gone to the finals in 2020 and 2023, they ran into the worst teams they could have ran into at that time. But if you have a Dame Lillard and you have your core intact, you are a year older. Jimmy Butler is a year older. He did run out of gas here in this last finals. But if you do have someone like Dame Lillard who's going to be motivated to win a championship finally and actually be on a contending team, there's a very good chance. And of course, whoever comes out of the weeds in terms of their development, from whether it was from this year or what's coming, there's a very good chance that they could have enough firepower to finally contend to winning the title. And as far as Bam Adebayo, I think you put it perfectly, John. I think their games actually do complement each other very, very well, especially considering Dame Lillard isn't known for his defense. Now, he's not as bad as Trae Young, but I think a lot of times that happens when you're on a team and you're the only star, and your job is to make sure you keep your team in the game because you're going to need to score 50 points. And that's what Lillard's career has been. Very Ray Allen-like when he was in Seattle and in Milwaukee. Very almost identical kind of careers, except Dame Lillard's a little bit more of a dash and shoot guy, whereas Ray Allen was just a really good classical shooter. So in the end, I was hoping that the Lakers would meet Miami in the finals this year to solidify. I know I said something different last time, and Sean got on me and smacked me around virtually. I wanted to reaffirm that the 2020 bubble title was 100%. It's still 100%, but a double on that would have been nice. But unfortunately, the Lakers ran into a lot, a very good team, a team of destiny, to some extent, and that's kind of how that went. But I believe that if the Dame Lillard deal goes through, I believe should the Lakers stay healthy, I believe we might see an LA Miami rematch, and this time it's going to be a little bit more It's going to be, I mean, they were pretty damn competitive in 2020, but this one is now going to worry you because Dame does something that scares everybody. Shoots from anywhere and makes it. That's a scary thing. And yeah, so that's where I'm on that.
I mean, I would like to see a rematch because I still stand by it. If both Bam and Guy were healthy, that series probably goes like a competitive 6-game series or a 7-game series. You'll see a lot of Heat fans will say that if healthy, we would have won in 2020. And I think like that 2020 team is exactly what he would need this year, except instead of Goran being that second guy for Jimmy, it will be Dame, who's levels above Goran, what Goran was. And even that team had an elite defense who had Kendrick Nunn, Duncan, and Hero all in their rookie seasons. And that's you said the Dame not being known as a defender. That doesn't matter for the Heat. They had I always say like Bam can make any defensive liability a good defender on the court. It just doesn't matter how many plays the Heat put on like that are below average defensively. They will still find ways to just cover them up. Except this time, like if you cover up Hero, that Hero needs to put up offense. Sometimes he doesn't do that. Sometimes he will like go cold. But when you have Dame, it doesn't matter if he doesn't play much defense if he gives you 50. Now you have Butler who won't need to exert much energy on offense as well. So like you said, he ran out of gas against Denver. But that's a lot. That's mainly because he had to carry the offense. There was no one else that could create a shot. And Butler's game is very physical, so it's most post-ups, a lot of drives. And if he's not 100%, then that just takes more effort for him. Now with Dame, that's more energy for Butler to give on the defensive end as well. Same goes to Bam. And like this year, a well-rounded team with those three who all complement one another. I can see this team like be still elite defensively, but then they will have someone that I don't think they ever had in their career, like a point guard that's probably the second best shooter behind Steph, as far as like pull-up threat. So that just changes everything for like Spo. Spo never had a talent like that as well, and we know Spo could also maximize every player. So it'll be interesting to see how much like Spo cooks up with Bam and with Bam and Dame, and then Dame and Butler. So I would really like this team going forward.
Once again, it's John Jablonka. Please go ahead and check his work out today at MiamiHeatBeat.com. I want to make sure everybody knows out there that we've got so many more great interviews from team representatives all around the country coming up here in the continued weeks as we focus in on the Western Conference. But before we go, I still want to go ahead and touch on a couple more things. One of the things I want to ask you personally is, who do you see if you do not get Damian Lillard, or he doesn't come right away, or he gets traded later on, et cetera, et cetera? Who do you see making a contribution that people are not expecting? I will say from my time here in Las Vegas, watching Summer League, getting a chance to see things up close, and as far as just gauging what I saw this summer, Nikola Jovic obviously has a lot of potential that he showed off. Haywood Highsmith obviously played well in the playoffs and spurts for the Heat. You have also as well everybody fawning over Triple J, Jaime Jaquez Jr., especially maybe us here at the Lakers, because we could have drafted him and unfortunately chose someone else instead. But we also wanted other individuals instead and didn't get that out either. But who do you see as one of the either younger players or players that you feel that may make a contribution that you feel is not getting enough recognition as of yet?
I think it's easily Josh Richardson. I think he's been the most underrated pickup for the Heat. People will say like, how will the Heat figure out like losing both Strus and Gabe? But they replaced Strus with someone who I think is a better player. I think Richardson gives more what Strus does. I actually got like a few stats for Josh Richardson. Per B-Ball Index, he's only one of the 6 players to be have like an A- grade or better in 3-point shot making, passing lane defense, isolation defense, and ball screen defense. So he's one of the 6 best 3-and-D players. The only other players in that company is Paul George, KCP, OG, Melton, and Dante DiVincenzo. So
But I say conversely, he is bounced around with a capital B around this league continuously.
True, but he's now going back to where he started under Spo, where he also had, like at that time, I think he had like a record where only LeBron James had it, where he was the only player with so many threes, so many steals, and so many blocks. So he was maximized with Spo. Everyone knows role players will get maximized with Spo. So it will be just fun to see him going back to the system that he already knows. If not him, who else was there? Young player. I think Orlando Robertson showed like good promise in summer league. I think last year was a rookie. I liked Orlando last year as well. And this year, like in the summer league, he showed some progress in like an offensive, like the floater or the mid range. He showed good potential on the defensive end as well. And that's all they need. If the Dame trade doesn't happen, Jovic is someone that has shown a lot of potential in the World Cup. He's going to potentially be winning a gold this week. So I think if he stays, he would be the X factor.
Sean, what you got for John right now, my friend? Talking Miami Heat basketball.
Yeah, it's interesting, John. You know, the Heat are in a small group of teams in the NBA that seem to be able to find a diamond in the rough and polish it. And
I'll tell you what, though, when it comes to, and I know what Sean was saying, a lot of diamonds in the rough for what we see with the Miami Heat, and hopefully we can get Sean back in here for it. But Orlando Robinson obviously is, like you said, one of the young keys to your success this season. I think because of what you lost as far as Strus and Vincent, which tell us about that. I mean, I know Blue Magic was in our chat room. He was asking about your thoughts on losing Gabe Vincent. What will losing Gabe Vincent and Max Strus, who Max Strus went to Cleveland, Gabe Vincent went to Lakers, what do you think that will do to the rotation for the Miami Heat?
I don't think the Strus loss. I don't think that will hurt as much, especially because of Duncan. I'm a huge Duncan fan, so I'm hoping he
Spoelstra
stays.
may not be the hugest. Duncan
he saved them. He won them a playoff game in the finals with his like 9 straight points.
But so Bruce Brown ate his lunch in the finals, respectively.
True, but you got to give and take.
With him, that's why, of course, absolutely.
But like now, he won't have any other options. Last year he lost his spot to Strus. Now there is no Strus, so you might have to just go back to Duncan. But when it comes to Gabe, I think that loss, especially if they don't replace a backup point guard, Gabe is just, I don't think he does anything very well, but he's not bad at any, he just does his job well. He excels in his role.
I was just asking Magic, are you here? You stay. Okay. Canadian internet, I'll tell you that. But so Magic Man, go ahead. What you're saying. I was asking John about what the losses of Vincent and Strus will do, and he says this opens up a bigger opportunity for Duncan Robinson, who's been all over the map. He's been a premium player for them, and he's also been hidden away on the bench, and they had to dust him off from time to time. Yeah, it looks like Sean's having some Canadian internet issues today, but I will say though, John, let's go ahead, Sean. We may not have you for much longer, so go ahead, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, John, I'm not sure how much of that you heard from me, probably nothing. So we, as Laker fans, we saw the experiment that was Cole Swider. Cole has a lot of great characteristics. One of his major flaws is he's just a defensive sieve right now. If there's one team that could probably turn that around, it's the Heat. Now, I expect him to probably play a lot in Sioux Falls rather than the big club. Do you think that either one of Swider or Champagne could potentially be a boon for the Heat? Because again, Champagne was another inexplicable player who Boston just jettisoned. So I'm just interested in what you think about either one of those two prospects.
And Miami creates players out of nothing better than anyone in the league. I will have to give them
Yes.
that. Yes.
Yes.
I haven't watched any either of those players. When you say Cole was a bad defender, is that more just a man defender, or was he just bad as a
He
team
just doesn't
defender?
have he just doesn't have quickness. Think Duncan Robinson, but a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger on that
If
end.
that's the case, I think in a Heat system with Bam Butler, that if you have like physical limitations, they can cover that up. As long as like Duncan is he's slow footed, he picks up fouls, but he's a good help defender. Same with Hero, he's a good help defender. He knows what spots to be in.
Yeah,
when to help.
Swider is a decent help defender right now, I'd say, John.
Yeah, so if that happens, then I can see them getting minutes, especially if they make a move for Dame and they need those kind of players. There are so many people that no one heard, like Drew Smith. No one heard of Drew Smith, and he played legit minutes in competitive games. Same with Jamari Bouyer. He played against Denver like many times. So I can't count anyone out. I can 100% see Swider just play legit minutes. Same with last Jamal Cain. He was another undrafted guy that actually had rotational minutes at times. So it's definitely possible.
Joe, any last thoughts for John on Miami?
Yes, little monkey wrench in the trade package here. If Portland asks for Nikola Jovic, does Miami do it? Let's say it's Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Portland demands Jovic.
Is that a deal breaker?
Is that a deal breaker?
No, if it's just, I think, from what I heard, like the reports, I think they're happy to do both Jaime and Jovic. I don't think they want to include both the young guys and Caleb. It's like one or the other. It's like you either get Caleb, I know both young players, or if you're both young players, you don't get Caleb. That's what I think I've read. So I don't think Jovic itself is a deal breaker. If it's Jovic and Caleb, or like if it's both of them, that's a deal breaker. But at the end of the day, you can't say no to Dame for Jovic or Caleb. You might not want to like offer that as your first offer, but you have to just if the Blazers won't budge, you still have to do it.
I agree. It's a burner, but I agree. Yeah.
I think in order to get Damian Lillard to Miami, because he could be the difference in an Eastern Conference big-time run, is having him aboard, especially if he played like he did last year. So I could see that, or last season, I could see definitely that being the case. But John, it's been great having you here. I do want to go ahead and ask your opinions and detailed thoughts on the Los Angeles Lakers before you heading out, because I know you said you wanted to keep it under an hour. One thing I did want to ask you start off with before I turn it back over to Sean and Joe is Gabe Vincent. It was mentioned by Blue Magic. He was very curious to see exactly your thoughts on Gabe Vincent. How was Gabe Vincent, in your opinion, during his time with the Miami Heat?
Yeah, I was a huge Gabe Vincent fan. I don't think he's anything like special that will blow you away for like flashy plays or high scoring games. He does all the little things right. He excels in his role. There are games where he will win you games. 2 years ago, I think him and Larry had like big games against Chicago. He just for some reason hit 5-6 threes. But he's a role player, and that's where you get like he'll get consistent production at his level. There won't be many mistakes, but they won't be highs either. He'll just do his role, especially with a guy like LeBron and AD, where he won't have to go over his role. Because I think that was the main issue with the Heat with like Caleb, Strus, and Gabe, where they had to play above their means because they had no one else. Well, when you have even players like Rui and Austin Reeves, they won't have to go outside of their role, and they might have even like a better season because of it.
Sean, the tables are now turned, and we're talking Lakers here with John Jablonka getting some good insight. I haven't asked him for a general consensus on the Lakers. He started off with his appreciation for Gabe Vincent. I think that's a great start for me, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. John, I happened to read some comments that Spo said about Vincent, and he described him as a shapeshifter. So you basically kind of elocuted what Spo was basically saying, that he will find a role for him and he plays it to the hilt. How do you see, because of you watching FIBA, how do you see him fitting in with, say, an Austin Reeves versus a D'Angelo Russell? Austin's more of a straight combo guard, attacks incessantly now. D'Lo's more mid-range, deep threes. So how do you see Gabe vibing with two a little different guards?
I think if he would do what's needed, because he played with Kyle, he played with, he was either like the secondary ball handler, he was either the spacer for Jimmy and Bam, or he was the lead ball handler. I think he's a pretty good catch and shoot. He had like a down year this year, but he's been known as a catch and shoot guy. So if it's Austin Reeves and D'Lo handling the ball, he's able to play off of them and attack closeouts, stuff like that. But if like Austin Reeves can play off ball as well, so if it's Gabe running the pick and rolls and finding Austin Reeves like spaces, he could also do that. I think that's one of the most underrated like parts of Gabe's game. I think he's a really good passer. If like you can go through my timeline, I posted a lot of clips just like Gabe passing, and you can see like countless of clips of him making skip passes, making like passes to the rolls. So he could do both roles well, either as a ball handler or off the ball.
Very good indeed. Joe, any Laker questions you want to throw at John? Always good to get a synopsis and a different perspective from someone who's not as, I guess, streamlined into the Lakers narrative.
I know the pressure is different in Miami. I mean, the pressure is there. You have Pat Riley. We all know who Pat Riley is. Do you think Gabe Vincent can handle the LA spotlight? Is he the kind of player that can focus on the task and not get overwhelmed by the glitz and glamour of LA and the pressure that's coming to him? Because if D'Angelo Russell has a bad game, we all know D'Angelo Russell is going to be the whipping boy this year. It's ingrained in everyone's mind. We're going to blame him for the wax on the floor not being done right. And as soon as he plays well, we're not going to say anything. So Gabe Vincent's going to be the guy that we look at to cover his deficiencies. Can Gabe Vincent do that? And I ask that because other than one game in the finals, I saw him struggle against Denver. So I'm curious to know if maybe it was finals jitters, maybe he was, I guess, neutralized in the correct way, which isn't out of the realm because Denver seemed to neutralize a lot of guys in their playoff run. But do you think Gabe Vincent, now a year more into the NBA, being a guy that wasn't even drafted and sort of close from my hometown, do you think he can handle the pressure?
Yeah, I think so. He had like a couple like cold stretches as well, and Heat fans are always go at him as well. There are so many that trash him on Twitter, but he always seems to bounce back. And even in the playoffs, he's the reason like they beat like their Bucks in the first round. Everyone remembers Jimmy having that game-winning alley-oop, but it was Gabe's three that even allowed that to happen. and I think it was game 1 or game 2 against Boston. He also lived up to the shot against Tatum, so he is known as well to make big buckets. Even when I think that was the game against the Celtics where he was cold. He missed so many shots and still decided to pull up in Tatum's face to hit the dagger. So I don't think the pressure will get to him as much. I don't take much weight into the finals. I think that was his first final because I don't remember him being there. Rotation play in 2020. So that matters. That's the first time finals for a younger player. I don't think there's much there going forward.
So we'll close it out with this here before we get to all the great work that you do with the Miami Heat beat. And once again, it is John Jablonka. Please go ahead and support him today at MiamiHeatbeat.com. Where exactly do you have the Heat? We'll go ahead and talk about the Lakers here as far as your thoughts on where the Lakers will end up in as far as the overall. But where does it stand out? You said there's going to be a limit for you on where you think this team will go in its current state when it comes to the Heat. But with Damian Lillard on the team, where do you think it will end up?
With Dame, I can see. I don't think there will be a top 2, top 3 seed, mainly because of health. Jimmy hasn't played more than 60 odd games. I don't think Dame will either. I don't think there will be a regular season juggernaut unless they repeat what happened in 2022, where they were just the best 3-point shooting team. So with Dame, I can see them being around 4th, 5th, with a ceiling being a finals. Without Dame, I think they're better than last year. I don't think they're a playing team. Even their whole idea that they were a playing team, they were a couple wins away from being top 4, top 5, and they had a lot gone wrong for them. They had a whole November stretch where Butler was missing games, Dame was missing games, and it was a week stretch where it was Kyle and Orlando Robinson playing 48 minutes. I think Kyle played 50 against Washington Wizards. So I don't think that will happen again, where those losses will pile up. And I don't expect them to be a bottom 5 shooting percentage team either. So I think as 3-4 wins, and they can easily be top 5, top 6, and not be a playoff playing team. But when it comes to the playoffs, I think the ceiling will be the same as this year, where it's Jimmy has to be what we've seen him do against the Bucks, and the team has to shoot 45% from free. That's been my take for even in January, where I could see them they were a playing team, and I could still see them making a deep playoff run if Jimmy was averaging 40 and everyone else was making shots. If that happens, they could go into the finals again. But then you don't want to bank on a team shooting 45% from free, and you also don't want to bank on Jimmy being Jordan again. So those are not realistic ceilings. So that's what I wouldn't be surprised if without them that first round exit team.
So where do you see the Los Angeles Lakers with its current construction, barring any changes, barring decent health? Where do you see them ending up this season?
I like their moves. I like the re-signing Rui. I like Austin Reeves as well. Depends. LeBron's a year older, so I don't know what kind of LeBron we'll get in the regular season. So I don't think there will be a major team in the regular season, same as last year. Don't think they're a playing team either. They will be again somewhere in the middle, top 5, top 6. Even at this stage, I can't count out LeBron. I think he's still one of the 7, 8 best players. If it's a single playoff run, he's healthy. I can't name 5 or 6 players better than him. And if AD's healthy as well, he was the best defensive player in the playoffs. So fully healthy, I could definitely see them have a competitive series against Denver. I'll still have Denver as the best team, and I would still pick them over Lakers. But I think after that it's Lakers, Warriors, Clippers, if healthy, just battling for like the second best team in the West.
Okay, there you have it right there. John Jablonka, appreciate everything that you've talked to us today. Magic Man and Joe, any thoughts or anything you want to go ahead and add on for John before we head on out?
No.
I know you did. All right. Well, before we go, we always give our guests the platform to go ahead and Magic Man, anything?
No. I was gonna add something, Gerald, but
Go
that's like,
ahead. Leave it out on the floor, man.
yeah, I was gonna, John. I've been hearing a lot, reading a lot of bullplop about Tyler Hero's impact as a player, particularly when he's obviously drawn into trade rumors, right? So I just a thought exercise, John. Were you aware that if you tabulated Jaylen Brown stats with Tyler Hero's, they're almost identical?
Jaylen Brown's?
Yes. Tyler is a slightly better three-point shooter than Jaylen Brown. He's a better facilitator than Jaylen Brown, and he can go left. Jaylen Brown can't go left at all. So when you look at those two comparatively, there's not a huge difference. Like if you look at their career arcs. But why do you think there's such a de-emphasis and kind of well, let's just face it. I think Tyler Hero gets disrespected his game, whereas compared to a Jaylen Brown gets like the utmost respect. I don't really see the narrative there unless it's just to try and, again, it's heat hate. That's what I think it is, brother. I think it's heat hate. I think it's Laker hate. I just think it's that idea that because if Tyler Hero was on anybody else's team, he would get kind of the pub and the value that he probably should. But because he's a Heat, because Reeves is a Laker, they don't get that kind of same respect. I was wondering why you think Hero gets this bad pub.
I mean, I can see why. Like, if Hero was on the Lakers, I can see him being the next Kobe. But I have mixed feelings for the Hero. I'm not entirely pro Hero. Like, I can see the criticism. I don't think he's like some Heat fans go the complete other way where they say he's a future star, he's a All-Star guy, he's an All NBA guy. Well, I don't see that star potential. I think he just gets criticism because he's pushed in a role again, like, because of the Heat, where he has to play above his role, and he's not good at that role. So that's why he will take on the slander, because he's not. I don't see him as a primary ball handler just yet. He doesn't get to the rim. He's not efficient enough. His shot selection has been a bit off, like going way into much mid-range. But he has to do that role because it's either that or letting Max Strus handle the ball. But then if you put Hero in an ideal place, in an ideal role where he's like he was in the bubble, like if you gave this team a 2020 Goran, where he could fit in as a secondary ball handler, be a shooter, like Zach Lowe had a post like earlier this year talking about he should be more Klay Thompson than Devin Booker. But because of the Heat circumstances, he has to be more Devin Booker to even win games. But if he was in a Klay role, I think his criticism go away because he'll be more efficient. He wouldn't have those self-created shots in a mid-range. Most of his shots will be catch and shoot. He'll be shooting more. His true shooting percentage will be much better. He won't have that offensive load. So I think it's just bad situation for him when it comes to development. If he was on even if he was on a bad team where he could do these bad reps, it doesn't matter that you're not winning because you're losing. But with the Heat, they want to win. You can't have development reps. So I think that's where he just gets hate.
Fair enough indeed. But great thoughts all show long from John Jablonka. Please go ahead and support him today at the Miami Heat Beat. So before we head on out, I will reiterate again, the floor is yours. Please go ahead. It's cheap plug time, as we say here at the Lakers Fast Break. Yes, as Joe will cheap plug away, but I'll cheap plug for him. Doesn't matter. We have no shame. Shameless plug time. Go ahead and let everyone know what you're up to, what you're doing, and how they can get a hold of you as well.
So you can see my Twitter, it's John Jablonka _. I do most of my in-season work at Miami Heat Beat. I did all the playoff breakdowns. So if you want to go back and see every single game of the playoffs, like with film and stats, you can see there. I also do at simplyballing.medium.com, where it's just my own personal blog. I just go into random stuff. Right now, I do a player tiers project, going through my top 100, 10-ish players in the NBA. I think that's about it. So thank you for letting me be happy to talk Heat for almost an hour as well.
Oh, we're great to have you here. We know the time difference and know that's late evening over there. So we wanted to just make sure that we got a chance to talk to you. We'd love to have you all back on the show again, talking the Miami Heat during the course of the season. So we'll try to reach out to you and go ahead and do just that, or you let us know when you want to come back on as well. That's no problem with us. But once again, it is John Jablonka. Please go ahead and check out his awesome site today, Miami Heat Beat, as far as his work there. And of course, check him out on Twitter as well. And Twitch. Almost forgot Twitch. Got to go ahead and post that as well. Twitch.tv/Miami Heat Beat. There you go. Indeed. Well, John, great to have you here. Looking forward to the next time we can talk Miami Heat. Also, as well, please note, starting next week, we not only will cover more of the Lakers, we're going to be covering this weekend. We've got a Lakerholic Spotlight. We might even do another episode later today. That's up to Sean and Joe, and see if we want to go ahead and talk of anything going on with Austin Reeves or Christian Wood, because I know that's the hot topics of the day. We'll go ahead and talk about that, but I know we're talking Christian Wood because by then Laker Tom will have been finishing with his backflips, and we'll talk about tomorrow at 3 p.m. on Lakerholic Spotlight. The next week, we're going to go ahead and talk more Western Conference basketball. So we'll go ahead and talk about that on NBA Observations, but we'll see you next time right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.